All right, folks. So, welcome to the Strong for Life podcast. I'm joined with my awesome client, Patrick Cusick, who's another Clare man. We're both very happy with the All Ireland recently.
Absolutely.
And Patrick has been in the program for a year and a half now, and he's gotten some fantastic results. I wanted Patrick to come on and talk about his experience to date. So, Patrick, really appreciate you jumping on. I know you're super busy with work, but let's start with maybe a bit about yourself, who you are, so people get to know a bit more about who they're listening to.
Yeah, sure. As you said, Conor, originally from Clare, but up this part of the country since 1988. I work in IT, have been in that industry, on and off, 34 years now at this stage. Um, was fairly active in sport when I was young in terms of cycling, football, other things like that. But like most other people, came to mid-30s, stopped active engagement in team sport and that stuff, and got more focused on work, got more focused on family, etc. But have always tried as much as possible to stay fit, but did find that it would stop start. And I wasn't given enough focus to myself in that picture. So come forward to 3 years ago. I can't know when it was, Connor. It might have been something on Facebook that I came across what Connor was offering here, the remote service in that area. But I think looking at the science behind it and looking at the way it was being delivered, which is kind of remote coaching and remote accountability being put with you to deliver on the program, I said to myself, this is worth trying. This is worth trying because the science made sense to me, and the approach made sense to me, and it was actually based a lot on Connor's own experiences of dealing with injury and recovering from injury and staying healthy. And at an early stage, he said this is an investment in yourself, and at the time you said, "Well, that's a cost," but actually now I realize it is an investment because we only get the one body in life, and how we look after that is going to determine how much of life is left to us. So what I would say to you a year and a half in is that this is worth persisting with because this focuses in on what matters, and you don't have to climb Mount Everest, or you don't have to run a marathon, to stay healthy. You can fit this into your schedule if you regard yourself as important enough. And a key part of that is regarding yourself as important enough. So I'm 62 now. And quite honestly, I'd be about same level as fitness as I was at 32, if not a little bit better, because it's more focused. So, what I'd be saying to people is this: if you're going to do it right, and consider, what you're doing today to look after the most important asset you have, which is yourself, and the two legs and two arms that you have, because you don't get a second choice, not yet anyway.
Yeah, yeah, man. Really appreciate you sharing all that. You had a bit of a shoulder issue initially coming in. So maybe do you want to touch on that and any other kind of motivators that wanted you to get some support before you joined the program?
Yeah, it's a good point because around about that time when I was looking at the program, I'd had a fall while out hiking. I'd always had a slightly weaker shoulder on the right hand side, but I had a fall and it was a choice between coming down on my hip or coming down on my arm. I came down on the arm, but I basically screwed up the rotator cuff with that fall. Now, you could look at that like, as a wake-up call in some ways, but I had the operation for it, but at the same time, I began the program with Connor, which helped me to strengthen that side again, because oftentimes people have the operation and assume that's everything. It's not. You need to work those muscles to ensure, that they compensate for the injury you've had and to ensure they come up to their full strength. So literally, when I was beginning the program, I couldn't do that. Couldn't put my hand out straight in front of me like that stuff. I couldn't lift a bag over my head. But the program of exercises were nothing, unusually as tough, but they were just well focused on what you needed to do in that area to strengthen that area around your shoulder. So right now I'm happy enough to know that, post operation, I could feel everything that's going on now. Now, until Connor mentioned my shoulder, I have no conscious on feeling about my shoulder because it's just in good enough shape, that I'm not really remembering that area until somebody points it out to me. But I think the main thing with that as well is to know that once you identify the challenges that you have, there are ways and means to deal with them. There are exercises you can do that can strengthen that area. It's not about pills. It literally is about the science of working on what's not working and how you compensate for that, how you build it up again, and how you get it back into full function, and it's possible. So it was timely, because the actual fall itself, like, was what finally brought me over the edge of that shoulder problem to actually address it. So the operation brought me so far, but the program brought me the rest of the way.
Yeah, I love I actually had another interview with another client last week, and he forgot about his lower back, which is why he
Yeah.
came into the program.
And it's an interesting thing because I don't think about my shoulder now much.
Yeah, that's a good sign that it's definitely rehab when you're not even remembering it or thinking about it, or it's not front of mind.
For sure.
Um, Patrick, like we didn't know each other. You just came across me on Facebook, and it's an
Yeah.
online remote program. So, like, what sort of thoughts were, maybe you were skeptical or things that you were unsure about before joining the program?
I guess through my work in IT, I do a lot of stuff remotely anyway, because so I could see what was possible. The main thing is, I suppose, was to look at the qualifications of that person in front of you, like, to deal with issues like this. I'm a great believer in the fact that those of us who pay enough attention to what we're working in become experts in it just through the persistence and through the passion for doing what you're doing. So Connor at that time as well too was just short of publishing a small booklet in terms of how you deal with this stuff. And you know yourself that the more you focus on something, the better you become at it. So trust other people who are good at what they do to be able to help you in what you need to deliver. So it went quickly from skeptical to I actually love this because it fitted in with my way of living, which is I'm a relatively early riser. So it was easy for me to put the app on my phone, put on a nice bit of music, and whack my way through the 30 minutes of the exercises, and gradually see them building up the what I could do in that area there as well too. At an early stage, my wife sat down beside me, like, and I sprang from the floor without using my hands, and she said, "I can't do that." And I says, "Yeah, and if you want to learn, you can do that, like, But it's to think you can't do stuff, you failed. Because if you're thinking you can't do it, you can't do it. But never give up on what the body is capable of doing if it's looked after and if you put in the right exercise, because it can get back to where it has been in the past. The muscle memory is there some way, shape, or form, but your mindset is also pretty key in that. If you think you can't, you can't. But be very careful in writing yourself off before your time.
That's such an important point, mate. Just the understanding that it's a skill that you can develop and improve and get back, So like you've proven at 62 now, you're saying you're, the fittest you've been in decades. Um, let's talk about some like results or breakthroughs, like maybe something early in the program that you're like, okay, this is really starting to click and hit home for me.
Okay, one of the early things was fasting. I'd always thought of fasting like, as something that didn't actually mean a lot to me. I was wondering why the sense of it was there and how challenging it would be. I actually found that that was something that could reinvigorate you. That was something that kind of woke up your body a little bit as well too. Um, if you're after a lot of weight loss, which initially I thought I was, then it's a great way to kickstart the body because it wakens systems in you. We are originally a hunter-gatherer, like, we're not supposed to sit down 3 times a day and have a big feed if we're not working it off ourselves. So it reawakens in you what's the natural way of going about eating. The second thing it got out of my head was to dispel the need to hit a target weight, because I think your body will settle in where it needs to be, and if that's comfortable for your body, then it's your unique weight. Don't get over obsessed about it. It finds its level. The body finds its level. If you're just going to chase a perfect weight, you might find in 2 years' time the body's brought you back to where it wants you to be. Live with it, embrace it. I mean, if you're heavily overweight, yeah, you'll want to address that one way or the other. But you can actually find that your body knows what it's doing in terms of finding its right point. So I would think to you, you might not have ever considered fasting, but give it a go, because it has a means of kind of jump starting the body again, and it might not be as challenging as you think. You might think, I'm never going to survive that, but a lot of our eating is habitual, and we get into bad habits of eating, and we get into rituals because it's your breakfast, your lunch, your dinner. Your parents have always said you eat your lunch, whatever, like, but you might even be hungry, but once you get into the habit of doing it, you'll do it habitually. So the other thing that brings to mind is what you put into yourself, because if you then concentrate on the fact that you can fast when you are putting stuff into yourself, make it the best of stuff that you can put into yourself. So, every meal might want an occasional bit of junk food, but make it occasional. Don't become dependent on stuff like, that really isn't the kind of stuff you put into your own stomach, because we know ourselves, if you put rubbish into a bin and you smell it a week later, it doesn't smell so good. So don't do the same with your own body. Like, it's just choose the right stuff. Be choosy because it's your body. And then don't necessarily, give in to every fad that's run on the road there. Control it, manage it, get on top of it, and you'll find your own equilibrium. So it's a personal journey, but it was a bit of a revelation to me.
Yeah, I love the point you made about the fasting, just that it's easier for a lot of people than they realize, and
Yeah,
it breaks a lot of your beliefs around
yeah,
like having to eat at certain times or always being hungry. A lot of times it's just a habit, and
yeah,
you're actually fine if you skip your breakfast or dinner. And it's a great way of managing calorie intake also.
yeah.
Um, what other breakthroughs or results have you experienced?
My stamina levels would be a lot higher now than they would have been in the past, and that also goes with stamina for doing your work stuff. I did a charity walk of 42 kilometers this summer, and I thought to myself, I should do this more often. So getting out in nature, is massively helpful for mental health as well too. And I think a lot of people struggle because they get up in the morning, they do their job, they're exhausted, they go to bed again, they repeat again. It's a dangerous cycle to get into. So what I would say to you is that make time for yourself, because mentally it's better than any drug that's out there. Some people require drugs, fair enough. But I would say to you that just getting out in the air, getting out and using your body is meditation in itself. Like, it literally is medicine for yourself, just getting out. And I know weather isn't the greatest, but that's just a matter of clothing. So I wouldn't worry too much about that stuff. But for your mental health, outdoors is where it's at, and take as much advantage of that as you can.
Yeah. And any other you were talking about when we went live as well, like about core. Do you want to share about that?
It's a very important point, and if any of you haven't read it, would have been the Sunday Times, which might be available online, of last Sunday, be the 28th. There was an article specifically on what the core is about in your body, and you might think core, okay, yeah, it's my abs down here or whatever, like it, but it's actually a cylinder around your middle part of your body, which is a bit like a scaffolding for life. And if that's working well, it supports almost everything else that you're dealing with. Now, without realizing it, at the start of the program here, a lot of Connor's early exercises in there, are focused on the core. But it's repetitive but simple, if you like, in how you go about that, and you build up your stamina in terms of the core. But the core supports everything else that's going on around your body, like, so if you get the core right, even the way you stand gets better. You don't slouch as much. You're naturally in better shape, like, and I think people really probably fundamentally don't understand the core that much. But if you want to spend your evening googling something, have a look at what the core is about, and then you can start doing the various exercises that are available in the program here, and you'll find pretty quickly that you'll be going up, like, from 19 a minute to 40 a minute to 50 a minute, whatever you want to engage yourself with relatively simple exercises. But it's the effort and the focus of that exercise that's building your core. So you may want to get yourself a six pack, fine, but it's not so much the six pack, it's about the whole structural strength of that middle area of your body.
Yeah, and you've said this a few times, like the exercises were relatively simple, which I think is a
Yeah.
really important point because like it's just progressively making things more challenging, but not annihilating you or anyone else at the start, which a lot of fitness is. It's like, killing people on day one, but what you're doing now, 18 months in would have killed you 18 months ago, would have wrecked your shoulder and everything, but we just progressively built it up safely. So now you're feeling strong and capable incrementally over the months, and you get that benefit of compounding, which is a really important one.
And part of that, actually, for people who haven't been on the program, is that initially Connor has that assessment with you to know where you are at the first point of engagement. So it isn't just to jump in and start doing loads of exercises. There is a fairly comprehensive discussion with Connor up front about where you are today, which is actually key. So that when you actually get into the exercise program, you're not exhausted, not doing that again. You're literally saying, okay, that was good. kind of enjoyed that. Like, you then have your shower and you have your cup of coffee and say, that's a nice start to the day, depending on what time of day you want to do things. I think the other key part we didn't mention, Conor, is the support of others doing the program and the fact that there are calls, once a week or as often as you want them to be with other people that are on the program. And they're very supportive. You very much feel part of the team and you get joy from other people's success in the program as well, and also help them with things they're struggling with. Because oftentimes, like, it can be pressures from outside that are causing them not to have time for this. But it's the support of the group, it's the support of the tribe there that really helps you, like, and I think the psychology of that is an important part of the program that you don't really understand until you actually join these meetings.
Yeah, I'm really happy you brought that up because it's like it's the support side of things, and then sometimes it's just the a lot of the feedback we've gotten as well as people, maybe someone's not having a very good week and they get on the group call and they realize they're not the only person who's maybe made a mistake or messed up, which a lot of the times it's like, oh, I messed up my diet or I skipped a week. What's the point? I'll throw in the towel completely. But coming on the group calls, you realize that, people are up and down with stuff, but it's just over time they're being consistent. And it's about being able to sustain that and not quitting is the key. So yeah, people get a lot of insights from those
Yeah,
calls.
it's a great point. We're all dealing with the real issues that are going on around us, like, but so long as you can be persistent, so long as you can keep driving towards it and understanding that it's for you, this isn't a penance that's been put on you by somebody else, like, and I think Connor's team, like, are supportive. You're not going to get given out to. It's your investment. If you choose not to do it, fair enough, that's your choice, but it's yours to make that choice. And I think that accountability is yours to own. But understand it's for you. So, this is an investment. It is, for all the money you have in the world, if you're not healthy, you won't be around to enjoy it. So make the choice.
Yeah, so important. With those different like benefits and results you've had, so like the fasting, the improved stamina, the core, the accountability to maintain and get stronger consistently, like what sort of impact has this had on your life now versus we'll say 18 months ago, 24 months ago?
Just feeling better in yourself. I think decision making is even better in some ways. I think your confidence level goes up in a big way as well too. Might have been bad beforehand, but you do realize the benefit, like, of being comfortable in yourself. Went to that All Ireland final, like, we talked about at the beginning here. Wore the same shirt as I wore in 2013. It wasn't tight on me.
That's great.
So, the very fact that you can realize that at 62 that it's just a number. Sometimes people inherit or inhabit where they are in life and settle for that, but don't settle for where you are in the calendar. Like, it's nothing to do with the calendar. It's about what you're doing about it. Because our bodies are tough things, and we are hunter gatherers. We're built, for this stuff. We're not meant to be lethargic. Mind yourself. Mind yourself and do something about it, and realize, like, when you're slouched in the couch for the fourth night in a row, you own that. And it's not going to do you any good. So think to yourself, what am I doing to improve my personal life? Because it's a bit like when you're on the aircraft and they say put your own mask on first. Everybody around you isn't going to benefit if you're gone. So if you look after yourself, you're looking after them first and foremost.
Yeah, that's really important, mate. It's actually kind of going into the next question I'd like to ask you is, let's just say there's someone, maybe you can specifically think of the person you're talking to, but like it's a guy or a girl out there who is probably in their 50s or 60s or even in their 40s, and they're just feeling old. They're feeling stiff. They're feeling kind of like things are just going downhill from here. Like, what would be one or two nuggets of advice you could give them to change and start moving things forward?
Strangely enough, in the last year and a half, that isn't just something that's fiction. That is something that's actually happened with a few people that are struggling with some things in there, like, and really what it was about in resolving this and helping them to come forward, it was around that fact of saying you're not alone. You're not the only one struggling with this kind of stuff there. And there are means to address this, and there are ways forward. So really what I'd say to people that are struggling in that area is that change your perspective. Don't accept that this is what happens and you get older and life starts to get slow and you just accept that fact. change your mind and all of that stuff. Be positive about things. If you say something negatively, you'll make that happen. If you think positively about it, it can be small steps, but it's about just establishing new habits because new habits bring new results. And don't give up because giving up, like is the only real failure. You can fail a number of times, like a sports team, for instance, but if you keep persistent, the opportunity will come again. If you don't make the opportunity, it won't happen anyway. But if you make the opportunity, then the potential is there to get what you want. So just don't give up. And seek the help of others because you're never alone in this stuff. We are a tribe, like we look out for each other. If you see somebody else, like that's an example of who you think you'd like to aspire to be, reach out to them. You'll often find that the higher up the person is or the fitter they are, the more they want to help others in the same situation. You'd be surprised at that, like is that people will support you if they feel you'll put in the effort, but never give up on putting in the effort because the only time you fail is when you finally quit. So just don't quit.
Yeah. Yeah, like just starting small is so powerful.
Huge, huge.
Even just like a 5 minute walk 2 or 3 times a week, like doing that for a year, it's been like
Take the
crazy
small
how
wins.
effective.
Take the
Yeah.
small wins. I mean, it's everything is a win if you're starting from a low baseline. And I've had peer of mine at work who's just been diagnosed with Parkinson's at 58. And he now tells me, like, the effort and the chore that it is to just do the basic tasks. Now, he has no choice. He's got a disease to deal with it. But if you have a choice and if you have that ability to move forward, appreciate that you can own that and you can do better. And it's small habitual changes. Every little win is a little triumph and take it as such.
Yeah. And also just reaching out to people as well. It's fitness and stuff I'm obviously very confident with, but I started, this might be something you might be starting as well when you move to Spain, is salsa dancing. And so I'm a complete beginner starting from zero. And when I started dancing, I was looking at all the advanced people and felt a bit intimidated. But then when I just started talking to them and asked them for their advice, they were like the most helpful out of everyone. They just wanted to help you and there was no judgment. So it's the same with fitness. If you see someone who's maybe doing well, or you think that they would be someone to ask, like 99% of the people are literally just very happy to give you some advice if you ask for it, and
And
people
another
are
good point,
generally.
another good point with that is don't be self-conscious because nobody else is looking really like, and they're all willing to help
Yeah.
you, like, so everybody starts somewhere. Lose your self-consciousness because I think one of the few benefits of getting older is you don't give a damn so much about what people think,
Yeah.
like, So with that, if you're starting something like salsa, everybody starts somewhere, but the person that'll help you most is the person that sees you arriving for the first time, turning up and making that effort because, it's the best thing you could do for anybody, like, is give them a little leg up and give them a little tip somewhere like that stuff. You see it, like, with the star player, like, for Clare last Sunday, like, he stood in the field once as nature watching everything that was going on with the older guys. So, don't be self-conscious, lose that. It's not worth it. Nobody cares.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Awesome, Patrick. Well, look, mate, I just really appreciate you jumping on, sharing your experience. I think there's a lot of people who'll be listening will just benefit from hearing, what you've benefited from and the advice you've given as well. It's always, I think, much more helpful hearing it from you rather than a coach or, someone in a position that you've gone through as well.
Yeah, well, if anybody takes benefit from it, happy to do it.
Awesome, mate.
See you guys.